I want you to think about last week. You wrote your sentence or started to, or you opened your card and you stared at it, and then you woke up the next day. And before your eyes were fully open, before your feet were on the floor, before you had had a chance to remember what you wrote, a little voice showed up. You know the one? It said, "Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to do this? Who do you think you are to want this? Who do you think you are to step out of the line you were assigned to? Who do you think you are to imagine that there are other Christians on the other side who are going to be helped by you? Not by someone smarter or more polished or more educated or different, much more put together, by you." That voice, I told you last week that it was not going to leave you alone. Today is the day when we're going to face it together. So stay with me. Welcome to Freedom to Follow. I am Salime. If this is your first time here, this is a podcast for believers who want to build their digital businesses for one reason: to fund their obedience, to create the kind of margin that lets you say yes when God says, go, give, stay, plant, write, send, train, serve, whatever your calling may be. For over 20 years, I have built digital businesses and platforms, and I am here to save you the mistakes and hand you down the frameworks and help you build something that puts your income where your calling is. Every week, we talk about something different to help you build this business. And every time we talk, comes with a free exercise waiting for you at latinpreneurs.com/the vault. Now, if you're coming back from last week, welcome back. You now have your mission sentence. Maybe it's on your phone wallpaper or in that index card by your bed, or maybe you wrote it and you have been reading it every morning the way I asked you to. That's great, because today is the day that sentence is going to get tested for the first time. And I'm going to need to give you what you will need to hold it. So let's get into it. So last week, you wrote this mission sentence. And before I tell you exactly what we're going to do with it, I want to take you somewhere with me. It is 2007. I'm in Guangzhou. I'm in a factory in an industrial district that you have to know your way around to know it exists. The address gets you in the gate gets you into a courtyard, the courtyard gets you into a door, and that door gets you into a room full of men. And remember, I am 27. I am the only woman in that room, the only person under 30, the only person who's not Chinese. And I am there to negotiate. So picture it with me, 8 men with suits, with cigarettes, with those tiny teacups they keep refilling, the factory owner at the head of the table, his son next to him who had not made eye contact with me one time ever since I walked in. And I'm there with my binder, my list of specification, my target price that I have to hold. And I had done the work. I had the business degree from a real university. I have had experience. I've been preparing for this meeting for 6 weeks. I had every reason to be in that room. And that whole time, the entire time, there was this voice in my head. ¿Quién te crees que eres? Who do you think you are to walk in here and tell this man what your client needs? Who do you think you are to push back on their price? Who do you think you are to be sitting in this table at 27 with no great hair, no husband next to you, no factory of your own, telling this man how this deal is going to go? Let me tell you what that voice does when it's so loud. You tend to over-explain, over-credential, laugh at things that are not even funny because you want the room to like you. You drop your price before they even ask you to. You agree to terms that you would never agree to back home because you're afraid of being seen as difficult. You let things slide because you are not sure if you're reading the room right, or if you're just imagining it. Well, I did it all in that meeting and in the 100 meetings after it. For the first 2 years in my career in China, that little voice was louder than I was. And then slowly something started to shift. It was not a single moment. It was not a verse that all of a sudden spoke to me in a specific way. It was not a mentor pulling me aside and telling me like, no, Salime, you belong. It was actually a slow, quiet thing that came over months. And it was this: the voice telling me I did not belong in that room was not telling me the truth. The truth was actually simpler. I had been called to this work. I had been prepared for that work. My languages, my education, my willingness to get on a plane and live in a country that I did not really fully understand and where almost no one looked like me. None of that was an accident. That was the Lord pushing me towards a place. And so that was my assignment. And the voice in my head was not God reminding me of my place. The voice was actually fear. So the day I started answering it differently, my business completely changed. The deals got cleaner, the pricing got firmer, the respect in those rooms came not because I changed who I was. It came because I actually stopped apologizing for being who I was. Now, I want to be very honest with you because I do not want you to think this is a story about young Salime who figured it out and never struggled again. No. I ran this business for 10 years and well, obviously I'm not doing that anymore. I built it, I moved on. I am in a completely different chapter now. But I want to tell you something I would have never believed if somebody had told me at 27 years old. That voice did not go away when I left China. It showed up again when I started, the second business, Divine Events. It showed up when I started Reformadas, the theology platform for Latinas, all in Spanish, conservative biblical theology. That voice was loud that entire first year. Who do you think you are to build this? There are people with seminary degrees. There are people doing this full time. There are people more prepared, better trained, more respected. Why you? Who do you think you are? There were nights I did not sleep over that voice. And then it started showing again when I started Latinpreneurs last October. It was in a different costume, but it was the same voice. Who do you think you are to think that you can teach other believers how to do digital business? Who do you think you are to have a podcast about digital business? Who do you think you are to write what you're writing? And I want you to hear me out. It is even showing right now, while I am recording this episode in a closet for you. That voice is asking me again, who do you think you are, Salime? So I want you to hear this clear. I am 20 years past that factory in Guangzhou. I have built digital businesses and platforms across 3 continents. I have helped hundreds of believers. And the voice is still there, just in a different way, wearing different clothes. So I want you to understand this clearly before you go any further. I am not teaching this from the other side. I am teaching you from inside of it. Because the reality is that imposter syndrome, the voice, does not go away. I do not have a trick that makes it go away forever. Nobody does. What I have and what I'm going to give you today is what to do with it when it actually shows up. Because you do not need the voice to be silent in order to obey. You just need to know it is not telling you the truth. Let's name this thing. The voice that says, who do you think you are, has a name. It is called the imposter syndrome. And every single person doing work that matters hears it. I want to say this again because I think you need to hear it loud and clear. Every single person who does work that matters has it. Your biblical counselor that you respect, the pastor you sit down under, the author whose book changed your life, the woman whose business you have been quietly admiring on Instagram, the friend who seems to have it all figured out. Every one of them has had a morning where they sit in front of their laptop and ask, who am I to do this? This voice is not unique to you. This voice is not a sign that you're not supposed to be doing this. This voice is basically the price of admission to any work that requires you to use what you know to help someone else. Here's the part I want you to really hear. You are never going to know it all. Not when you start, not when you launch your first thing, not your first $1,000, not at $50,000 a year, not after 10 years, not ever. I am 20 years into this and I am still learning. I literally had just had this conversation last week with a woman who has been in business twice as long as I have. And she told me she still has weeks where she does not feel like she knows enough. The myth that has stopped most of entrepreneurs I have ever coached is the same exact me. Once I feel ready, I will start. Once I know it all enough, I will start. Once the voice gets quiet, I will start. Hermana, the voice does not get quiet because you learn more. The voice gets quiet because you stop expecting it to be quiet. Imposter syndrome is not the problem. Waiting for it to disappear before you obey is the problem. And that is the shift that we're going to pursue as I give you this framework. I want to give you 3 things to hold on to. 3 things that have helped me and have helped the women I have walked with, the believers that I have walked with, actually move forward while this voice is still there. Number 1, you do not need to know it all. You need to know more than the person you are helping. This is the thing nobody tells you. You do not need to know or to be the world's leading expert on what you do. You need to be one step ahead of the person you are helping. This is it. This is the whole map. If you have been through the diagnosis season with your child, you can help the mom who had just had the diagnosis last week. You do not need a PhD of special education, but if you have one, hey, even better. But you don't actually need it. What you need is the last 12 months of lived experience that she is going to walk into it. If you have, for instance, like moved your family across the country and rebuilt your life starting from scratch, you can help the woman who is about to do that. You do not need a real estate license and relocation certification. If you have it, great, but you don't need it. You need the experience of what you have been done and through that she doesn't have yet. And listen to me, this is not just like a clever business strategy I made up, This is what teachers do. This is what coaches do. This is what every single mom who has ever walked her daughter through her first heartbreak has done. This is what every dad who has taught the son to drive has done. This is what the church has done for 2,000 years. Titus 2. The older women teach the younger women. And it is not because the older women have all of life figured it out. It's not because they are theological scholars. They teach because they have walked the road first. They are one season ahead. And the younger women need someone close enough to remember what it felt like and far enough to actually help. That is who you are. You are a Titus 2 woman or man for someone. But the fact that you do not have framed it all the way before does not mean that you have not been doing it. You have been doing it your whole life. You have been doing it for your sister, for your friend, for your cousin who calls you in tears, for, like the new girl or at work, or for the people that show up in your church who, have just had their first baby and are drowning in it. You have done this many times for free. So what we're doing now is taking what you have already been doing it and giving it a structure, giving it a name, giving it a place where the woman who needs you can actually find you. Stop measuring yourself against experts at the top of the field. They are not your competition. They are not who your person is looking for anyway. Your person is looking for someone one step ahead, close enough to remember what it felt like, but far enough to actually help. Your person, your persona, your avatar is looking for a Titus 2 woman. That is you. Number 2, most of the voice that you're hearing is comparison, and comparison has rules. When that voice says, who do you think you are, 90% of the time, you can trace it back to some specific comparison you just made. You saw someone on social media, you read someone's book, you watched someone's webinar, you scrolled past a podcast clip, and somewhere in that minute, you compared your inside to her outside. You compared the messy middle of your start to the polished highlight reel of her 10th year. You compared the part of you that is still trying to figure out the tech stack with someone who looks like she has all dialed it in. You compared yourself at the bottom of the mountain to someone who has been climbing for a decade. See, comparison has rules. You are allowed to learn from someone ahead of you. You are not allowed to use them as evidence that you should not start. You are allowed to admire someone's work. You are not allowed to weight your beginning against her middle or her finish. You are allowed to notice that someone is further along. You are not allowed to interpret that as a verdict on whether you belong or not. When you catch that voice getting loud, ask yourself one question. Who did I just compare myself to? Most of the time you will know the answer, and most of the time the answer will tell you that that voice is not telling you the truth about you. It is telling you the truth about who you were just looking at. Number 3, the voice is loudest right before something real. And this is the one that I want you to write somewhere. The voice is loudest right before something real, right before you publish the thing or you press send to the email, right before you tell, your husband the price, right before you launch the offer, right before you record the first podcast episode. It is not loudest in the dreaming phase. It is loudest when you're actually doing. That is a pattern. When the voice gets really, really loud, it's often a signal that you are about to do something that actually matters. And this is not always, obviously. Sometimes the voice is loud because you're tired and underfed or hormonal or have been on Instagram for a little too long. But often the voice is loudest because the next step, the one you are about to take, is a real good step. So no, this is not a sign you should stop. This is a sign that you should actually keep going. Sit with this for a little minute. The voice that has been showing up since you wrote your mission sentence, the one that has been getting louder this week, not quieter. Who did you compare yourself to? What thing were you about to do when it got really loud? What lie did this voice tell you about how much you need to know before you actually can start? And I want you to name the source, because the next thing that we're going to do is write a letter that will answer it. I want to come back to Gabriela. You know her by now. She is the special education teacher, the one whose skill we found in episode 2, the one whose hours we found in episode 3, the one whose persona we built in episode 4, the one whose problem we named in episode 5, the one with the mission sentence that we read together last week. This week, Gabriela, who again, the voice started showing up, and it came from her suegra, from her mother-in-law. Now, her mother-in-law has been faithful for decades. She has prayed for her son, prayed for their marriage, loved Gabriela for like the 10 years that they've been married. She has never been unkind to her. But when Gabriela told her she was going to start helping parents navigate special education plans on the side, that she was going to start charging for it, that this was the thing that she felt God had been preparing her for, her suegra got quiet. And later that week, on a phone call, she said, Gabriela, hija, you already have a good job. Why would you start this? Just focus on your family. Why are you doing this? Just don't do this. Stay where you are. Now, she did not say this to hurt her. She said it because she loved her. She said it because she had never seen a woman do this. Now, Gabriela almost quit that week, but she didn't. She sat in her car after the phone call and cried for, a lot of minutes and almost deleted that document with a mission sentence on it. But she did not. She did one thing first. She pulled out the card, she read her sentence aloud, and then she asked herself the question, is God saying this, or am I saying this from another source? Now, she knew the answer. She had known it for months. So she drove back home, did not delete any document. She did not call her suegra to argue back. She wrote this letter to herself. And the next morning, she came back to work on that thing that she felt God was telling her to build. I have an exercise for you. And in this exercise called the evidence file, it is, again, waiting for you right now for free at latinpreneurs.com/thebold. It is a couple of pages with 3 sections. The part 1, at the top of the page, you're going to write down every place you have heard, who do you think you are in the last 6 weeks? That voice in your own head, that Instagram comparison, maybe that cousin who said are you sure? Whatever the voice is, and whenever it shows up, just name it. Write it on paper, in your handwriting, in this exercise sheet. Now, one caveat. If this voice is coming from your husband or your pastor or someone close to you who knows and loves you, do not file them under that voice. Go sit with them. They know you. They love you. They may see something that you do not. So listen it first. But again, with that caveat, right? Because imposter syndrome is in your head, but counsel from people who love you is something else entirely. And that's different. So with the evidence file is for the voice on your own head. And the comparison notes, the ones that you kind of know where they're coming from. Now the part 2 you're going to fill 3 lists. The first list is, what do I actually know? What do I already know? 5 to 7 things you have actually lived to. And these are lived in, like, not actual credentials. Like, I know what it feels to, I have walked through this. I have helped someone with these at least how many times? If a friend called you at 11 at night about this thing, would you know what to say because you have lived through it? Experience. Okay, now second list, who am I one step ahead of? 3 to 5 real people who you could help today with what you know. The friend who just got the diagnosis, the cousin that's about to move, the new manager who's dreading the conversation with her boss, like real names. The tightest 2 women in you already knows who they are because they're a little behind. Now the third list. What is true that voice cannot argue with? And I need you to have 3 to 5 sentences, just facts, no feelings. I have 10 years of experience in this. I have been asked about this specific issue 30 times in the last year. The last person I helped me told how things changed for her or him. God prepared me through this specific season. So when that voice gets loud, you're not going to argue with it. You're going to read this file, and the voice, because the voice is dealing with feelings, and the file is going to deal with facts, and facts always wins. And then you're going to write a letter. This in a letter form that's going to allow you to read it with the facts of what you actually know. That's how we are going to silence that voice. So go to latinpreneurs.com/the vault, look for the evidence file, print it, and fill it out, and read it whenever like this little voice starts to say anything, right? Now, before we go, I need to tell you something. The voice that has been showing up since you wrote your sentence is not going to go away. I want, again, to be super honest and direct with you. It is not going to disappear after you have this evidence file. It's not going to disappear after you make your first sale or your first 100 sales. It is not going to disappear at $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month, or after your business have been funded your calling for 10 years. I told you right now that I still hear it 20 years in, with 4 digital businesses on my own, and with helping hundreds of believers. I still hear it. But here's what actually going to change, because after this podcast, you are not going to be alone with it. You're going to have all this evidence that is going to tell you why you can do this. And it's going to be in your own handwriting with 3 lists, and all of them are going to be true, because these are things that you have lived, people who you are one step ahead on. Facts that this voice cannot argue with. So every time that voice gets loud, and it will get loud, you're going to stop arguing with it. You're just going to open the evidence file and you're going to read it. This is what believers, entrepreneurs who finish what they actually start actually have. They don't have a louder confidence that you do. They have better evidence, and they know why they're doing it. Tonight is the night. Today is the day that you're going to start building it. Now, next week, this voice is going to morph. It always does. Once it cannot keep you from starting, it's going to try to keep you from charging. And it's going to whisper you, who do you think you are to ask money for this? This is another conversation. We will have it next week. But for tonight, I want you to go to latinpreneurs.com/the vault, download the evidence file, do it, and I will see you next week. This is Alime, and this was Freedom to Follow. Thank you so much. Goodbye.